is 6:30 p.m. on Thursday, February 6th, 2026. And this is the general meeting of the Board of Intermediate District 287. Welcome, everybody. The first item on our agenda is to introduce ourselves. So I'm going to ask Ken if he would read the mission of our district and then go ahead and you can start our board member introductions.
Okay, the mission of Intermediate District 287 is to be the premier provider of innovative, specialized services to ensure that each member district can meet the unique learning needs of its students. I'm Ken Less. I am the board rep from Ridgefield.
Great.
Leslie Locke, Roanoke.
Keith Tate, Osceola Area Schools.
Caroline Long, Robbinsdale School District.
I'm Michael Bergman. I represent Edina Public Schools.
Ryan Roth from West Tonka.
Kim Ross, representing Eden Prairie.
And Chestra, Wayzata Public Schools.
And Casey, proudly representing St. Louis Park.
And Shannon Andreessen. Hello, everyone from Hopkins Public Schools.
All right, is there a motion to approve the meeting agenda as presented? Moved by Dan, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kim. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair votes aye and the agenda is approved. Do we have anyone here for audience opportunity to speak tonight?
No, Madam Chair.
All right. Then the next item on our agenda is our consent agenda, which contains, oh, hi. Mike, you're here. Rick's over there. Welcome. Our consent agenda, which contains routine business items as well as the monthly financial report for January. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Shannon. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Brian. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye and the consent agenda is approved. All right. The next thing on our agenda is under the superintendent's report. We have our legislative update and we have special guest Valerie Doslin, who is the lobbyist from Ewald and who is going to present our proposed 2026 legislative update, which got put into the board packet today. So it is in board book and we've got paper in front of us as well.
Great, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'll talk a little bit about session overview, and then I'll talk a little bit about what I'll be working on for the intermediates. I think to say that Minnesota politics has been a little volatile lately is probably an understatement. Wasn't sure what that would be like heading into the beginning of the 2026 legislative session, but there's just a lot of things that are kind of have been impacting things, impacting the tenor lately. You know, obviously we've had the murder of Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband and the shooting of Senator Hoffman, and then the shooting at Annunciation Catholic Church. So there's a lot of heaviness that legislators are bringing with them at the beginning of the legislative session. There's also a lot of ongoing challenges, just ongoing conversations and concerns about fraud in state programs, the impact of federal budget cuts from the budget bill that was passed by Congress in June, the impact of the budget on the withholding of different federal funds as of late from the Trump administration, what's been happening in Minnesota because of the immigration enforcement actions, and then just a really difficult budget forecast. It's not the best way to start a legislative session. They're really creating a complex and constrained environment with which to work in. There are new safety screening measures at the Capitol. There's a lot, the access to enter the buildings is very limited. You have to enter in the main buildings and there's screeners, weapon screeners to go through at the Senate and the Capitol. It's actually, it's going very smoothly, and I think it's adding a level of safety for the legislators and all of those of us who spend a lot of time there. But you should give yourself a little bit of time if you are coming to the Capitol. The budget forecast that came out in November showed that we had a $3 billion, $2.4 billion budget surplus for this current year, but a $3 billion budget surplus deficit for next year. That's all going to go out the window because the February forecast is supposed to be out tomorrow. So that is the forecast that the governor will use to determine the governor's recommendations, and the legislature will use to decide if there's going to be a supplemental budget. The message I get from many, many legislators in meetings and in conversations is don't expect much this session. And then just some kind of main education issues to watch. Obviously, school safety is on top of everyone's mind. There was a series of school safeties bills that were heard this week in the House. And some more school safety bills will be heard next week in this House. Because the House is a tie, the Republicans have the control of the agenda one day and the Democrats have the control of the agenda another day. So on both sides, they all have different ideas on safe schools measures. The compensatory revenue hold harmless, that's set to expire, is on top of a lot of people's minds. I know that legislators are hearing about that from their school districts around the state. Then I do just want to flag something because you might start hearing about it. It's not going anywhere this session, but there is an effort to try to create a new educator statewide health insurance pool, and it received a hearing today. But was laid over, but you'll probably start to hear about it from your circles like the School Boards Association. The issues that I'll be working on with the intermediates are, of course, safe schools revenue. The intermediates is one of the only cooperative right now that gets safe schools revenue, but there will be an effort to try to add that for all the other cooperatives. But there's as I mentioned, a bill by Representative Green from Edina. She'll up next week that we'll be speaking in support of. Right now, there's very limited resources for related service individuals who want to become a related service personnel staff, like an OT or PT or SLP. And so we're working on a proposal to add the ability to use a pathway grant for those related service personnel. Marcy, do you want me to go into the agricultural homestead credit? It's kind of a niche thing. But the agricultural homestead credit is it's a property tax relief for individuals who own a home on agricultural land. The property for levies associated with the intermediates and other cooperatives don't qualify for this credit. So we're going to be working on trying to get extend that to the intermediates. But I think the thing that probably has the most traction this session is safe schools funding. But again, that all depends on what the budget shows tomorrow and if the legislature gives a budget target to the Education Finance Committee. That's it.
I think one of the biggest things we're also talking about is the repealing of the contingency of the
Oh.
$200 million of special ed cross subsidy, part of the Blue Ribbon Commission.
That was on my list. I just skipped over it.
All good. So it impacts us significantly and
Yeah, questions or, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for the awesome presentation. It really helps. I have several questions. You mentioned that the February forecast is coming out tomorrow. Do you have any expectations, like any anticipations? Kind of what do you expect to see tomorrow?
I've learned not to have any expectations about the budget forecast. You know, the monthly projection for January did show that they brought in more money than they had anticipated, but it could be a big surprise tomorrow.
Did you have another?
I'll let other folks.
And I'm not nearly as smart as the forecasters that do the budget forecast, so.
Thank you for being here. It's kind of a jam. So, I am wondering about, so I have been working consistently on compensatory funding fixes since the pandemic. And I'm wondering, do you have any, I get the hold harmless and we need to actually fix this broken model. Do you feel like there's any appetite for that to actually finally be done? Or are we just gonna continue to kick the can down?
Well, there is a working group that's has met throughout the year and will meet throughout the remainder of, and they have to submit recommendations next fall to the legislature, the compensatory revenue working group. And they're looking at a number of things. One is what to do about the formula. Also look at how is compensatory used? Does it need to be changed? So I think because of that work, the legislature would be very reticent to do anything this session
Right.
on a long-term change. You know, really what they're hearing the most from school districts, from school boards and superintendents and finance directors is the hold harmless is set to expire in the July 1st or June 30th. And we have to wait for the recommendations of to come to the legislature for the next legislative session. So there's going to be at least a year-long gap in funding for those districts that will lose money because the hold harmless expires. So the legislators are very keenly aware that hold harmless is a concern for many, many districts, and they have heard over the course of the last several weeks from public testimony about the concern on hold harmless. So
The concern being,
that it's set
That
to
it's not-
expire and districts will
Right.
lose funding.
because it is even at that level, I mean, this has not been updated for how many years? Like 5 years. So we're operating, schools are currently operating on very old data for that funding. So I hear what you're saying and just expressing a little frustration that this timing is way off.
You know-
Of recommendations that we
Yeah.
should have had a while ago,
Yeah.
but thank you for that update. It helps when we're advocating at the Capitol, which we'll be doing on March 9th.
And the
Um,
working group is a public, they meet in public for the most part, and you can participate.
Great.
And the names of the members of the working group are on the MDE website, and you can certainly reach out to them and express your thoughts. There's I'm not a school board member, but there's several superintendents on that working group.
Great, thanks. And then I did just have a question on this, the intermediate school districts platform. I'm wondering about expanding the educator workforce to include related service personnel. I think it's excellent, and I'm glad that that is something that's being talked about. Just wondering if including paraprofessionals in the term educator, or would they be part of the related service?
So the pathway grant we've identified is a pathway for paraprofessionals to move into licensure. Right now, it's limited to just a teaching license. So we're expanding it to other related service areas.
Thank you for that clarification.
In Wayzata schools, we're headed to a referendum that if approved will be the largest in the state ever. Among those is a item to expand the high school and build a CTE space. What are you hearing around the legislature about career and technical programming?
Everyone loves it. No one wants to fund it. Sorry for my bluntness, but
Oh, that's very helpful. Thank you.
At the end, true.
in fairness, there's a lot of pressures that the legislature has, and a lot, not just in education, but it is lower on the list of things.
Questions for Valerie? I have a question, which is, I heard you say, I think the words you used were that this environment was complex and contained. And so how does that change how we come to the legislature, how we advocate for, maybe that's not the word you use, doesn't matter. How does this environment change how we should be showing up for our students and for our staff at the legislature?
Well, I think measuring your expectations about what might be accomplished is important to do, but there is always a balance of measuring expectations and continuing to communicate about what the need is. And the way I'm approaching this session is just continuing to talk about what the need is for setting up for future discussions for when the budget situation gets better. You know, will it be next year? That's very hard to say. Who knows? But it took a very long time for the legislature to pass inflation on the formula. And if everyone would have given up on that 10 years ago, it wouldn't, but when the time was right, we were able to get that passed. And it wasn't a new concept. It wasn't something that legislators hadn't been hearing about, or that they didn't understand the need. We didn't have to do a lot of education about that. So it is really, this year's, I think, setting up for what the future discussions are. Now, are we going to get the $250 million special ed funding reduction repealed? Probably not, but we are going to talk about it because we do want them to understand when it happens next year that they're not surprised about how challenging that will be and how much worse it will impact the cross subsidy. That is, of course, if the Blue Ribbon Commission does not find the savings.
Thank you. Anything else for Valerie?
I guess I have a question about the school safety part. I mean, yes, that's the buzzword. That's going to be the thing that people say they're going to be, but what are they really actually going to do about that? What are they really going to do, not just for the intermediates, but also for all school districts throughout the state of Minnesota who are facing those concerns and so on and so forth? What are the real bills that are actually being formulated and how are they looking to fund those? More likely they might say, yes, you're allowed to use your own levy or whatever it is to throw something on your formula for your own school safety measures or whatever it is, but the likelihood that the state's actually going to provide actual real dollars to districts to be able to make it happen, I find that skeptical at the very least.
Yeah, that's a good question and a good observation. I do think it is challenging given the budget situation. Now, we might get different news tomorrow that might say otherwise. There are, as I mentioned, there are a number of bills that are being proposed. I'll start with Representative Green's because she's from Edina. Her bill is in line with the Association of Metropolitan School Districts platform and the School Boards Association platform that increases the Safe Schools levy for traditional K-12 districts up to $100. And then it increases the intermediates and it adds all the other cooperative school districts that don't get it. And then it adds funding for charter schools. The bills on our side, and I'm not trying to be partisan, but just we have an even split. So they're very concerned about the lack of funding for safe schools or private schools. So that's where most of their attention has been put on. I can't remember. I believe one of the bills that was heard the other day did also increase the safe schools funding, the dollar amount that's in statute for K-12 schools, but it added it for non-public schools. And because of the tie in the legislature, the big debate is whether or not non-public should receive safe schools funding. And the
I haven't
Democrats
heard that
don't
before.
agree with that. And, there's a disagreement on the House side between the
But of
Democrats
course,
and the
they're going to add
Republicans.
on to the non-public schools, all the requirements that public schools have as far as how we serve every student in order to get that public funding, right? Yeah.
Those are the tensions that are brought up. Yes. Yeah. So will it happen? I mean, if the budget situation looks differently, maybe. They do continue to say safety is a priority, but
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you.
thanks for having me.
Let's see you at the
Thank you.
Capitol. Yes. All right, under our instructional report, we have Kiara Zachary, our Director of Equity and Inclusion, and do we have Jennifer?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay, so Kiara, going to provide a presentation on the American Indian Concurrence Plan, and the board will be asked to take action on this.
Good evening, everyone. Board and Superintendent. I'm here to present the American Indian Education Concurrence Report and then ask you all to approve the resolution of concurrence as the American Indian Parent Association Committee voted last week. So very quickly, in the state of Minnesota, you have to have 20 students to receive American Indian Education Funds. Currently in District 287, we have 35. 34? 37. 37. 37.
Going up.
The amount is going up. We had 40, we lost a few, so it's been in flux. Right now we have 37 students. Most of our students, interestingly, across our 4 core sites, we have 8 students apiece. The demographics show that there's equal distribution in that regard. And then we have 5 students that identify as Indigenous at CTC, which is our Career and Technical Education Center. Our demographics, now this is what's important, and this is cause for some criticality, right? So our gender demographics follows the demographics of our gendered population in District 287 because of disparities within special education representation and identification. We have an overrepresentation of male identifying students than female identifying students. That tracks. What I want you to pay attention to is the number of students that we have in 12th grade and our last year of transition. So if we have 18 students, that's about half of our Indigenous student population in years where they can leave us. If we lose all 18 students, we would just barely qualify. And so that means that we could potentially lose state eligibility should all of these students leave our transition outside of our program this year. That's important. We recognize that as the council, right, as a committee. And so our goals also very much align with supporting students in that planning and transition. Of course, we don't want to develop a plan based on our wanting to like retain students, right, that need to move. And we also were intentional about this year creating structures and systems that could continue even if we became non-eligible for funding for the next year. So we really were thinking a lot about how do we prepare staff, how do we create systems and structures for students to organize and come together, how do we get parents involved, families involved in existing and reoccurring district opportunities, so that if we become ineligible because of the number of students that we have for next year, we can still maintain some of this similar programming without necessarily creating something external, right, that would require additional funds. So that's sort of like the context of our planning, so that you can, again, like with criticality and understanding, see why our goals are the way that they are. So here are the goals. Per statute, we have to have one goal in each of the 5 areas. The first one is around supporting post-secondary preparation for American Indian students. The next goal area is around supporting academic achievement. The next is making curriculum relevant to the needs, interests, and being essentially culturally relevant to our American Indian pupils. This is their language, not how we refer to our students also. Just so you know, they prefer the term Indigenous. Goal area 4 is providing positive reinforcement of self-image. We call that positive racial identity development, 287. And then goal area 5 is an intercultural awareness. So our goals also have to align with our strategic plan goals. So I hope that you all see alignment with our strategic plan goals. And also, we were flagged. I'm trying to find a more technical term, but we have ESSA requirements for around graduation and attendance. And so again, we were aligning these goals with those goals as well. So they should sound very familiar. They should sound like things that you've heard of before, because they had to. So the first goal is that students would create a post-secondary goal, and then they would complete 3 check-ins around that goal with our American Indian education staff. Our second goal is that we would decrease chronic absenteeism by 5%. Our third goal is that we would increase literacy achievement and math achievement by 5%. Again, our goal around providing a positive reinforcement of self-image is around chronic absenteeism. When we asked students last year around like why were they not coming to school, it was really around disconnectedness and lack of community. And so as an indicator of them not coming to school, we hoped to increase self-image by being intentional in creating connection and community for them to join us, to come to school. And then our intercultural awareness is that we would increase our parent and caregiver participation in district events. And I'm here to share our progress with you on those goals. So first, in order for us really to understand how to support students and the need specifically for a cultural affinity space for our Indigenous students, staff needed to feel more prepared and have some historical and cultural knowledge around indigeneity and how that indigeneity influences self-perception, right? So we took our staff on a tour, the Bdote Learning in Place tour. And it was also an opportunity for us to create what's been a really meaningful partnership with the Minnesota History Center, so that our staff have access to a community of other learners, other educators supporting and Indigenous learners. And then also, if staff don't participate in the learning from place tour, we actually can't get the curricular resources for students to have the same experience, a learning experience. So in order for us to replicate this experience for students, we had to do it ourselves first. And it was very powerful. So we did some of that work at the very beginning of the school year. Additionally, we've had, and I think that you may recall from last year that we have we created curriculum kits for each site, and that staff have been able to partner with Brent Dysart and Dania Brown Castro, our equity and inclusion coordinator, and our American Indian student liaison to co-teacher facilitate activities in their classrooms and during their affinity spaces. And then lastly, we voted at our last APAC meeting that we would send some staff, parents and caregivers. We also emailed the Minnesota Indigenous Education Association to see if there were still some student spots available. And they said that they would open up registration again for us. So we will ask our students tomorrow when they come for our event that I will tell you about shortly, if they are also interested in attending the Youth Day, which is March 19th. We've also, a part of our strategy again was building intentional community. And so we've been providing cultural education and goal setting in our affinity groups. So this is some pictures of our students participating in various things in our affinity spaces. We've done art projects. They've been watching documentaries. They have been very interested in learning about boarding schools and the impact of educational trauma. They have found connection to their own journeys through the educational system and how in the ways in which they've made it to Fed 4 or to an alternative learning center, they felt a deep connection to those stories. Additionally, many of our students that identify as North American Indigenous are in guardianship without their biological families. And so again, they felt very connected to those stories. It was very powerful. They were very interested in learning that history, and I think it made a lot of sense to them. They also made fry bread, which has been an absolute favorite activity for them as well. So our affinity spaces provide students an opportunity for cultural education. And then we also begin the affinity groups with check-ins on their goals. So the student groups, like you see, there's about 8 students per group that are invited. We start with, do you remember what your goal is? Do you remember what your goal is? And what have you done since our last time together to work towards that goal? And sometimes they're really honest. MJ has visited us a couple times, and MJ tried CTE for a little bit, and that van ride from ABEC to CTC was a little long for MJ, right? So MJ said, very honestly, I tried it, I didn't like it. Right? So it's good to be in those spaces. And then we got to talk to MJ about, well, what else could we do, right? If CTC isn't the fit for you, right? The van ride is really long. And MJ also really enjoys cooking with Chef Will, right? So what are the other things that we can do to help you still maintain your post-secondary goals? And our student attendance, which is really exciting, right? Our student attendance has increased from 52% last year, 52% of the students that identified as Indigenous attending 89% or more, which is like the state threshold for which would chronic absenteeism, right? To 59%, right? So students are coming more regularly. This also accounts for students that transitioned to online learning, temporary online learning. So we had 3 Indigenous students transition to temporary online learning, and they are all, 2 of them have come back to in person, and there's 1 more who's making plans to come back in person as well. So the next is community connectedness. One of the things that we struggled with is really growing our American Indian Parent Advisory Council and identifying community members. And so we've partnered with Indigenous Roots, which we are so excited about, to build connections with culture bearers that are coming tomorrow to do winter storytelling, drumming, and making medicine pouches with our students. And so having this connection with Indigenous Roots has allowed us, again, to like create relationships with culture bearers that can, again, like help advise us and provide, which I wish Jennifer was here to talk about, but really to provide the elder presence that she felt was missing from our space. And having that consistent elder that would be available to our students. So they will be able to meet them tomorrow and build community and connection with them. These are a couple, so this is you'll see some pictures of our visit to the Indigenous Roots Center in St. Paul. And they decided they are coming to us and they are crossing the river. We pivoted, right, during immigration enforcement occupation time. And instead of going to the Indigenous Roots Center as we had planned to, we met with them and they were willing to come here. As we didn't, we were unsure about what it would mean to have our students in community. So we're super thankful. And they were also very thankful that we didn't just cancel, but that we were willing to be flexible in that regard. What you also see here, these other two photos, again, we pivoted and we had a virtual visit to the Walker Art Center. And we heard from Stephanie Whitehawk. She is an artist. She's a local artist it's now closed. She had an exhibit at Walker Art Center and it was about her art and storytelling about her experience in a Native American boarding school. And again, the students were very, very passionate and connected to the story. Danya is, again, she's our Indigenous Education Student Liaison, and she was tireless and wanted the students to have a very fulfilling experience, even though we weren't going to the Walker Art Center. And she, through social media, many connections, many attempts, connected with Stephanie Whitehawk, and she was able to join the Zoom and speak with our students on that day. It was a really amazing opportunity. And then they were able to create their own art inspired by Stephanie Whitehawk's art. So that's what you see them holding up there. That's a picture of the Zoom and all of their processes. So outside of Indigenous Roots, we've also have connections with Indi Young, and they're an organization also in St. Paul, but they currently have an initiative to provide upstream suicide prevention, specifically for Indigenous students. So we are full service community schools. Coordinators have been working with Indi Young to embed and enrich the existing mental health resources that we have, specifically with some focused on our Indigenous youth. Again, we have our connection with our community elders and our winter storytelling, and then Stephanie Whitehawk. So our goal area 2 has been met. Exciting. This is our attendance. Again, I told you that we've now had 57% of our students attending at least, 59% of our students attending at least 89% of school days or more. Our goal area 2 is met. We currently have, it's about, I need to read this better. Oh, I wrote it down. We have 19% of our students above target or well above target for reading. We have some work to do in math. We recognized and reflected that our current instructional practices better support or more prepared to intervene with students around literacy than math. And so while we recognize that's an area for us to act specifically for our Indigenous students, system-wide, it's also something that we know we need to act upon. And so there's an opportunity for us to work with teaching and learning and special education in other ways, so we can not only support our Indigenous students, but also be more intentional and robust in our math proficiency and intervention. So what we have to look forward to is we are going to continue our student affinity spaces. Students look forward to coming to their affinity groups. They hold our staff extremely accountable to them. They know when they're supposed to happen, and I love that they ask me when I come in there, are you here because we're having group today? And sometimes I'm not. We will have a family visit to Indigenous Roots, all things maintaining, right, in April. We'll have our senior celebration on May 21st at South Education Center. And then to continue our post-secondary planning and support with their goals, one of our Diploma On coordinators is currently in school to become a counselor and is working on college and career planning and using motivational surveys, motivational interviews, and wants to do some interviewing and goal setting with our students. And so we look forward to supporting him in that and having those opportunities for him. So with all of this information, last week on February 19th, the APAC initiated a vote of concurrence for our current year's American Indian Education Plan. And now the state requires that you all vote to accept it via resolution. You have any questions?
I have a few.
Yeah,
You got time?
I do.
The Native American Cultural Center in the Little Earth neighborhood in Minneapolis has a great art program, and they always bring in local artists. So if you want to contact them,
Okay.
they have a wonderful cafe there now. They're a little heavy on wild rice because they're all in Anishinaabe,
Mhm.
and they need some Dakota that right.
Oh.
They're okay.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I'll just come and accept, and I won't
All right.
provide those comments.
Are our Indigenous students self-reporting, or do we have to have tribal membership for them to count for our?
Currently, we use self-reporting.
Good.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. Yeah, if you think, the colonial governments are hard to deal with, you ought to try tribal.
I'm familiar.
Okay. Can a board member join the parent advisory group?
You can attend any of the meetings. We cannot count you on the roster.
Okay, let me know.
Of course.
All right. And then why don't we use the term indigenous in our reporting? One of our goals was to improve their self-awareness or something. Okay, start there.
I'm using the language that's in the statute. Otherwise, yeah.
Imagine that the state's behind.
Yeah.
Okay.
But otherwise,
Do we refer to our students as indigenous?
yes, we do.
Thank you.
Yes.
So, yeah, I don't care about the paper.
Oh, okay.
That's more for the state plan of acceptance,
Yes.
but fully noted.
Mentioned students participate in a reading screener as well as a screener.
Yeah.
Could you share more about like what is on those screeners and what skills are assessed on?
It would depend. So we have different screeners for students that have different learning needs. I'm not 100% sure which of our students are accessing which screener. I didn't dig that deep, and that's not information that's available in the data dashboard. It just tells us the assessment. I could absolutely find it out, like which of our students are assessing, which one of our students are accessing which screener. That data is available. I didn't pull it for this, unfortunately. But depending on grade level, and then again, which screener they access, they would be assessed on things like reading comprehension, phonemic awareness. They would be assessed on like letter inventory, letter sound inventory, right? It depends. Again, it's dependent upon which one they are accessing and the grade level that's most appropriate for them.
We use the fast bridge, and then we also use curriculum-based measurements based on
Mhm.
access to universal screening, the ability to access universal.
Thank
you. Chair.
Yep.
Hi, thanks
Hi.
for this report. I just heard ours in Hopkins on Tuesday, so it's all fresh in my mind.
Yeah.
Congratulations on a concurrence vote. I think that speaks highly, especially since this is the first year.
Second,
Second,
yes.
great. And I also am wondering, I have a couple questions. One is how many parents are on APAC?
Yeah, so we have our chair, and then we've had 3 parents as visitors. This is our greatest need for growth. We've invited, when students want to attend, we've asked them to invite their adult. Again, recognizing that many of our Indigenous students are not living with biological guardians. There are, there's been a level of like hesitation and participation to, if the adult doesn't identify as North American Indigenous, to be in that space and to speak on that. So yeah, it's an area of growth that we've had. We provide online options. We've tried rotating where we have the meetings. We provide food and childcare and transportation. We send out Blackboard messages and then like personal emails to families before the meeting, just to, invite them, and then also ensure that we have opportunity to coordinate if they need, again, like food, childcare, transportation. We're working on it. We're still building relationships. What we've noticed is that our Indigenous students are really excited by and love to attend our family nights. And so we are intentional about tabling there so that we can build those connections with whomever the adults are that are around. And so we've been counting those interactions.
Thank you. And I was wondering, when I'm looking at the demographics. Chart. One, is it up to us how we're categorizing these demographics? And if so, can we include something in addition to male and female in our gender demographic collection?
Yes, if they were present, students can identify beyond male and female. Not for state reporting, but in our Synergy system, we don't have any students that have not identified as either male or female,
Okay.
but it's available.
And if it could be reflected in the chart, that would be great.
Okay,
Like, just to acknowledge that is
Sure.
an option.
yeah, of course.
Thank you.
With your parent advisory group,
Mhm.
don't get down, okay? It's hard.
Yeah, yeah,
Native community, it is very hard because, yeah, and if a grandparent is the custodian, they're not gonna walk into a school building easily
yeah, of course.
because
Yeah.
of the educational trauma that
Mhm.
they've gone through.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, hang in there. It's okay. Three visitors.
Yeah.
You're doing good.
Well,
That's
thank
a
you.
good thing. So, but you're up against a hard demographic.
Yeah.
And a lot of trauma, so keep it up.
Yeah, and that's part of our strategy, is to connect with community and elders, is because we know that if we can create trusting relationships with them, then that will show, whether that's grandparents or, families or caregivers, that, oh, like, this is a safe space, I can come, right? Like, I can come here. So that's another part of our strategy, is that connecting with those community leaders and leveraging relationships outside of our own. We know we need to earn trust.
So the enrollment count, is that of a particular date, or is it like kind of an average, or how do you figure that
The enrollment count happens monthly
for the funding?
yes.
Okay.
For the funding, it's a date, it's October 1.
But as of October 1, how many kids are? Okay.
Yeah, so that makes us eligible for funding for the school year. And then the data that you see is our count as of the beginning of the month.
Sure.
The monthly report. Yes.
So for those board members who haven't done this before, maybe you don't have this in your home district. This is one of the only times when like a community group votes on board and the district rather than kind of the other way around. So I think it's a really profound kind of act of mutual trust that we don't see in very many other places in our work. So I always love this night, and I think it's just a reminder of what a privilege it is to be able to serve our Indigenous students, and the fact that that the vote of concurrence is, you know, given to the district and the board. I mean, our approval of it is secondary to that. So, appreciate you, Kiara, and please, pass our thanks also on to Brent and Dania and Jennifer and everyone who's been on this team. And, this is really only the second year. It's
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah, we are busy folks. We work hard. Yeah.
Incredible. So, I heard what you said about, right, like not wanting to like hold on to students just because we want that number, but, I feel very confident that we'll be able to keep up the work regardless of the state designation. Really very much appreciate that. So, with that, I would entertain a motion to approve the, vote of concurrence from the American Indian, Parent Advisory Council.
So moved.
Moved by Mike, and is there a second? Oh, sorry, Juanine. So sorry. Is this a resolution or?
Yes, we have to send, it's the form they sign says resolution.
Okay,
So we gotta do.
we'll do a roll call.
So we'll be-
Yep. Okay. And then is there a second? Second by Dan. The motion was Mike. And then if our,
Dan?
yep. Is there any other further discussion? Okay, well then if the clerk would call the roll.
Thank you, Chair Casey. Richard Zeck,
Yes.
Kim Ross,
Yes.
Michael Bergman,
Yes.
Shannon Andreessen says aye. Michael Rumcall.
Aye.
Leslie Locke.
Aye.
Keith Tate,
Aye.
Kenneth List,
Aye.
Caroline Long,
Yes.
Ann Casey. Dan Janestra.
Aye.
And Brian Roth. Sorry.
Roth.
I had it right. The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we don't have too many more items. I don't have any items under the chair report, just a couple of announcements. The calendars are in the board book. Please make sure that you fill out the annual, public officers interest in contracts form that is sitting at your table spot right now, and please give it to Juanine. That is just an important thing that has to, I guess it goes, does it go to the auditor? Yes. And Tuesday, March 3rd, which is Tuesday, like this is the end of February already. If you can believe it, is our next Get on the Bus. It will be hosted by Karen Treatment. So we'll meet here and get on the bus around 8:30, and we're going to Hopkins, to a site in Hopkins.
Yep, to Uable to discuss the care and treatment program at Uable.
So if you can make it, please let Juanine know that you will be there. And then we have our, the meeting scheduled for all the rest of the Get on the Buses and the 2209 school board lunch, in the board packet. And the sign up form will be in tomorrow's board update for all of those items. Anything else? Don't think so. So,
One thing,
yeah.
Madam Chair, we do have a tentative agreement with our local 2209, which is our
Hooray.
teaching licensed staff and our paraprofessionals. They are voting and hopefully we'll be able to bring it to the next board meeting.
Thank you. And thank
Thank you to the team.
Yes, the team. Any items for once around the table?
I'll give an update on our superintendent search at 27 schools. We announced 7 finalists, so confidentially, there's 7 individuals we narrowed it down to. A small committee of 3 board members has interviewed the finalists over the last 2 days. They're very tired. The board colleagues are. And we'll be, announcing those names shortly. We're happy that we have on the list. On the referendum front, we're plugging away. We had an outstanding presentation on our career and technical programming already existing in the high school and what we hope to do in the future should we have that addition on the high school. A yes committee has been formed and is active. We're encouraging our community members to get involved in whatever way they can. So a lot's going on in Wayzata.
Anyone else have anything?
Just a quick note, the Northwest Suburban Integrated School District, which many of us around the table are looking for a new executive director. And so we'll get that info out to everybody to help us find that and move ahead. So if you've got somebody in mind, let us know. Because their new board chair needs a lot of help. Like me and that, but no, that ain't right.
Well, before we adjourn, a little bird man told me that it was someone's birthday yesterday, so happy birthday to Marcy.
Thank you.
You've had a wonderful celebration, a celebration week.
I'm not afraid to ask what won.
Oh.
Culture being an elder is important. You're not an elder.
We have to go into closed session for that.
Okay. Go move.
If our HR person was here, they would say no.
I have a friend whose birthday is May 29th, and she's had a lot of golden birthdays. I'll just tell you that. Every year. Okay, with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Shannon, is there a second?
Second.
Second by, who was that? Mike? Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, and we're adjourned at 7:21.
Really? And it was.